So this seems to be the 20th something attack where Russia probes my nation's borders. And this time it actually hit a residential building, so tensions are high. I went on social media this morning, and half of the people were that this is a false flag, and the other half were like, "Oh, to war! We need to go back to Stalingrad, continue where we left off. Every day now, Romania's troops are going to invade Moscow and punish Putin for the atrocities that he has committed." And I'm like, are these people insane? Like, sure, like you can declare war to Russia. Absolutely. Are we going to win? I mean, it's one thing when you have the troops mobilized because they're defending themselves, right? It's another thing when you're going to war because of one drone. There is this thing called proportional escalation. Apparently nation states actually care about that. The thing is, like, if you were to actually invoke the article from NATO, which says if one nation is attacked, then they all go in. They also take into account the serious nature of the attack, right? Like, did any of your cities burned? Are there boots on the ground? Is Russia actually mobilizing logistics to invade you? It's not like you poke one nation and they're like, to war! Start the machinery! Because, like, many nations are still democratic and their own people may actually not appreciate seeing caskets coming back home. Like, for example, in Germany, right? They're part of NATO. Why are we dying in Ukraine? Well, because a drone hit Romania. Like, if you're a politician, can you explain that to the people? I don't know if I could. But still, with that out of the way, you can't leave things the way they are, right? Like, just because you're not going to war and invading the streets of Stalingrad again doesn't mean that this is acceptable. It's not acceptable. And so the Romanian government is basically now talking about improving our anti-drone defense, which is what they've been talking about doing for years, right? And we're probably going to still talking about it for years to come. But yes, it is actually something that needs to be done because there are two possibilities. Number one, this was an accident. Drones are not extremely accurate weapons of war. They are accurate, but not extremely accurate, right? And so, is it possible that some drones, especially if they operate on a border, can actually enter the non-combatant nation? Yes, but if it happens too often, then that signals the fact that Russia doesn't give a shit, which is not okay, right? Like, it's not politically acceptable for your country to allow the neighbor to be belligerent and just say, yeah, I mean, if it happens, we don't care. Right? Oh, well, we bombed the residential building. Oops. Just deal with it because you're not going to invade us anyway, so I guess we can just disrespect you like that. The other possibility is that Russia is actually probing Romania's response time, NATO's politics, what will happen, what will they do, right? That's also a possibility. The reality is both are unacceptable, right? And so something has to be done. Again, modern nation states are not going to war over a single drone incident, but they are also not going to allow it to go unpunished. So I do believe that the anti-drone shield is going to be hastened. Unless there are individuals in NATO that genuinely want this to happen, right? Like, they may actually want escalation. And so they're going to say, well, just let's allow it to keep happening until more sanctions, or like, maybe, obviously, like, not necessarily going to war, but like maybe NATO itself can send a few drones into Russia. Why not? Let's escalate. I think it's an unlikely possibility, but especially because, like, now there are situations with America in the Strait of Hormuz, and usually even the war hawks, they're aware that they don't want too many theaters of operation at the same time. But there is a possibility, yes, that this is actually left the way it is so that things can escalate, right? So that things actually look bad for the current Romanian government. The other possibility is that, well, the anti-drone shield may actually be expensive, and shooting drones out of the sky is not as easy as people think. It's not like in the movies. Particularly this drone was flying very low. So if you have a drone that's flying low, you can't really use an F-15 in order to shut it down. The other problem, and this is interesting, many people don't like discussing it, but I think this is the reality on the ground, is that it's one thing to shoot at a drone over a field, it's another thing to shoot at a drone over a residential area. Right, so sometimes by firing the missile, the explosion and the shrapnel is actually worse than if the drone hits a building. And this is something that the politicians take into account, because if the drone actually goes into a building, it's Russia's fault, right? If you shoot it, and by shooting it, the debris falls on it, then it's your fault as a politician that authorized it, or as a soldier that authorized it. And the world works on incentives, right? Like, people generally know what the public opinion is. They don't really think about human lives as much as they think of their career. Again, it shouldn't be this way. I know, like, it's not moral, but I'm telling you how it's like for the actual chain of military command. And they're doing risk assessment. It's like, what happens if we don't shoot it versus what happens if we shoot it? And if we shoot it and it hits someone, it's our fault. If we don't shoot it and it hits someone, it's Russia's fault. And many people just don't want to be blamed. We live in a risk-averse society. We don't live in an honor-based society. In an honor-based society, it's your honor and duty to shut it down. In a risk-aversion society, well, if someone dies, I hope it's not my fault, right? Again, this is the reality, okay? This is how, like, genuinely people on the ground operate, whether you like it or not. When you become a general, you can change the system by acting differently. But here's the interesting part. There have been many other drones that didn't get shot down, right? And the question is why? Like, why is Romania constantly allowing drones to fly over our territory without shooting them down? There's two reasons. First is expense. A missile is more expensive than a drone. I think a drone is like $2,000, and a missile is around $100,000, probably even more if you count the takeoff of the plane. Now, if you shoot them constantly, right, like Russia can just send drones and you can keep shooting them until you run out of money. Again, $2,000 a drone, right? If they send 100, then calculate the math. But I don't think it's just that, right? I don't think it's just a financial issue, because like usually the military has missiles that are already close to expiring and they can use those first. I think the issue is a lot more dark and a lot more grim, because I live in Romania and it's my country, right? I think the issue is the pilot wondering what happens if I miss. Romania doesn't have veteran pilots. We do not have the training. And if you look at what happened in Russia, a lot of their military, a lot of, even their capital ships, they have suffered decades of corruption, where people were stealing parts from the ships, people were taking money away from updating their military and filling their own pockets. This is Eastern Europe. I'm not saying this is the case, but it is a possibility, right? That our own pilots are not as trained as we would like them. And so when you wonder what happens if you miss, there is political fallout, right? Because, like, again, it's unacceptable. What do you mean you missed? Like, people don't understand that. It's like a video game. You have target lock, you press the button, the drone explodes, right? Like, how can you miss? But if the technology isn't up to date, if the training is not accurate, yes, they can miss. Russia gets a lot of information, which is actually worse than the political fallout, right? They basically find out that the airplanes are not good enough to shoot down the drones, right? Third, it's like, again, if you hit, it depends where the shrapnel falls. If it's a field, it's one thing. If it's a residential area, almost no country wants to. Like even Israel, right? When they have their drone shield, the Iron Dome, right? They have an alarm and they tell people to go to safety. Now, in a war state, Romania has that as well, right? But for some reason, we haven't used it. And maybe the system is not being designed to be used. I don't know. Like, we're supposed to have this row alerts thing where your cell phone buzzes, and it should basically tell you there's an active military engagement, get to safety or something like that. But we haven't done it. And I think we should, especially for the border areas, especially for places like Galatz, right? There should be some training where the government basically tells people, okay, you need to have like designated areas. You need to have basements. You need to have like these places. And when you get the message, you need to get in there. It doesn't matter if it's night, if it's day. Like the war next border, right? And we're not doing this because we think the war is going to get here. We're doing this because we're trying to have common sense. And I think like this is the temporary solution that needs to be implemented, at least for border areas. The government should actually start having serious conversations with folks and telling them it's like, look, it's happening, right? Like, even if Russia isn't attacking us, the possibility of some drones coming here exists. And we will deal with it. Like, we are going to talk with our NATO partners. We're going to figure it out. But until we do, there needs to be a system in order to keep people safe. Like, if there is a drone that penetrates the borders of a city, like, people in that city should get the raw alert. Like, Romania doesn't sell phones that aren't smart anymore, specifically so we get the raw alert. It's like, well, then fucking use it, right? Then fucking use it. But anyway, it would cause panic. I mean, would it? Sure, like, it should, but, like, people that are reasonable and adults, like, they do understand. Like, I do understand, okay, there's a war next border, alright? Like, nasty shit can come here. If I get the message, chances are it's not a problem, but, like, I still need to take cover. I still need to go in the basement. It makes sense, right? But I don't know why it's not being implemented. But yeah, all in all, shooting drones is not as easy as it's in the movies, right? And there is political fallout. If there's political fallout, the politicians become cowardly. I do think that some of the biggest cowards on planet Earth are politicians. Right? And usually because the public doesn't understand or wants to understand. The public is very emotional. And so when the public is very emotional, the politician thinks, okay, how can I make it so it's not my fault? It should be everyone else's fault. We should blame anyone else but us, right? And that's the type of system that it creates. You know, when you have too much accountability, it doesn't create accountable people. It creates people that want to deflect blame. And that's the society we live in. Yeah, I mean, again, last time I made the video and I said what I think, a lot of people called me a coward, or it's like, listen, Taiwan is getting probed by China on a monthly basis. And it has been probed for years. And I don't see Taiwan going to war. I don't see the United States going to war. It's just the way that modern nation states operate. Right? Like, usually a drone strike is not enough in order to create general mobilization. That doesn't mean that nothing should be done, of course. Like, this means that the drone shield has to be done faster. The public has to be informed. There needs to be measures in preventing this from happening again. So, like, the people in that area should get a raw alert, you know. But yeah, I don't think like this is going to create a general mobilization in Europe because Romania got hit by a drone. Still, diplomatically, things have to be done because I think it's at the point where Russia just doesn't care. And that is not something acceptable, right? If you're conducting combat operations, you can't just say, well, oopsie. Right? Imagine what would happen if America, while dealing with Iran right now, would accidentally hit Israel a couple of times. You know? It's like... Anyway, right. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, we'll see you in the comment section. Take care.